You know what's almost scarier than a character who vanishes overnight? A character who disappears so slowly, so quietly, that you don't even realize they're gone until you're 3 seasons deep and thinking, wait, whatever happened to that guy? No dramatic exit, no goodbye episode, just a slow fade to nothing, like a song that gets turned down so gradually you forget it was ever playing. That's what we're diving into today. Hi, my name is Aaron, and this is Old TV Cinema, and today we're counting down 10 sitcom characters who were slowly phased out without explanation. No fireworks, no farewell, just gone. Number 10, Judy Haynes, Step by Step. Step by Step premiered in 1991 and was essentially the Brady Bunch for the TGIF generation, a blended family sitcom following Frank Lambert, played by Patrick Duffy, and Carell Foster, played by Suzanne Summers, merging their 2 families under one very chaotic roof. And right there in the middle of that chaos was Judy Haynes, Carell's oldest daughter, played by Stacey Keenan. In the early seasons, Judy was a legitimate part of the show's fabric. She had storylines, she had personality, she had a place at the table. She was the responsible, level-headed counterbalance to the Lambert kids' rougher edges. Then, somewhere around season 4, something shifted. Her screen time started shrinking. Her storylines started drying up. And by the later seasons, Judy Haynes was basically a piece of furniture. Present technically, but nobody was really paying attention to her anymore. Now, here's what makes this particularly interesting. The show never addressed it. Nobody said, hey, Judy's going through a quiet phase. Nobody gave her a big storyline to go out on. She just got nudged further and further toward the back of the frame until she was basically an extra in her own family. Behind the scenes, Stacey Keenan had actually landed a role on another show, My Two Dads, before Step by Step even started, so she was never the producer's top priority to begin with. But the slow fade here is textbook. If you went back and watched Season 2 versus Season 6, you'd think you were watching 2 completely different shows with 2 completely different casts. And poor Judy is the proof. Number 9. Vinnie Barbarino. Welcome back, Cotter. Okay, so this one is a little different because technically Vinnie Barbarino, played by a then unknown John Travolta, was never written out in any conventional sense. But his slow phase out is one of the most fascinating in television history because it happened entirely in real time, right in front of the audience, and everyone just sort of accepted it. Known in Welcome Back, Cotter premiered in 1975 and followed teacher Gabe Cotter, played by Gabe Kaplan, returning to his old Brooklyn high school to teach a remedial class of lovable misfits called the Sweat Hogs. Travolta's Barbarino was supposed to be one of 4 equal cast members, the ensemble, the team. Then Saturday Night Fever happened in 1977, then Grease happened in 1978. And suddenly John Travolta was the biggest star on the planet, and Vinnie Barbarino was getting awkwardly squeezed into an ensemble sitcom, like a lion trying to fit back into a house cat door. The producers tried to capitalize on his fame by writing him more screen time, but Travolta's outside commitments meant he was showing up less and less. By season 4, Barbarino's appearances had become almost guest star level in a show he was supposed to be co-leading. The other Sweat Hogs, Epstein, Washington, and Horshack, were carrying episodes without him. And the thing is, nobody on screen ever acknowledged it. Cotter never said, hey, where's Barbarino been lately? He was just sort of around less and less until the show ended. And he wasn't really there at all. It's like watching a guy slowly back out of a party. Nobody stops the music. Nobody announces he's leaving. He's just gone, and the party continues. Number 8. Lisa, Home Improvement. Now, look, I know what some of you are thinking. Lisa? Which Lisa? And that is exactly the point. Home Improvement ran from 1991 to 1999 and was one of the defining sitcoms of that entire decade. Tim Allen as Tim Taylor, the lovably incompetent handyman hosting a local cable show called Tool Time. And standing beside him on that show, as the Tool Time girl, was Lisa, originally played by Pamela Anderson. Anderson's Lisa was charming, funny, and had genuine chemistry with the cast. She was also becoming one of the most recognizable faces on the planet thanks to Baywatch. And that, right there, was the beginning of the end. As her outside fame grew, her availability shrank, and the producers quietly began writing her out, episode by episode. No dramatic farewell, No final tool time send-off. She was just progressively less present until she was replaced by Debbie Dunning as Heidi, with barely a passing explanation. What's wild is that millions of people watched this transition happen in real time and somehow didn't register it as a big deal. The show just moved on. Tim kept grunting. Wilson kept dispensing wisdom over the fence. And Lisa was just a trivia answer. Here's one for you. Did you know Pamela Anderson was a series regular on one of the biggest sitcoms of the 90s before Baywatch took over her entire career? Some people genuinely have no idea. That's how smooth this phase-out was. Number 7. Tina Pinciotti, That 70s Show. Okay, raise your hand if you remember Tina. Anyone? Anyone at all? That 70s show premiered in 1998 and gave us one of the most beloved ensemble casts of its era. Eric, Donna, Kelso, Jackie, Hyde, and Fez. That was the core group, the Basement Crew. But in the very first episode, there was a 7th member of that group, a girl named Tina Pinciotti, Donna's younger sister, played by Amanda Fuller. She was right there in the pilot, hanging out in the basement, part of the gang. And then she just wasn't. By episode 2, she was gone, replaced by a completely different actress, playing a completely different sister with a completely different name. Suddenly Donna had a sister named Midge Jr., played by Lindsay Hepburn, and then eventually even that character disappeared. The show just kept quietly restructuring Donna's family until nobody mentioned Tina ever again. Now, I want to be clear, this is not quite the same as a mid-series phase-out. This happened almost immediately, but the reason it qualifies for this list is because the show never stopped to explain it. Not once. Not even a throwaway line. One week Tina existed. The next week she had been erased from the Pinciotti family tree like a photograph in a time travel movie. It remains one of the most casual character disappearances in sitcom history. Casual to the point of being almost impressive. Number 6. Casey Cunningham, Happy Days. Look, Happy Days could probably fill an entire countdown of its own when it comes to characters who mysteriously evaporated. But Casey Cunningham deserves her own moment in the spotlight because her phase-out is a masterclass in the slow fade. Casey, played by Crystal Bernard, was introduced in season 9 of Happy Days as a cousin of the Cunningham family. Fresh face, new energy, the whole deal. She had genuine screen presence, and the producers clearly saw something in her because she stuck around for 2 full seasons. She had storylines. She interacted with the core cast. She felt, for a brief window, like a legitimate addition to the Cunningham household. Then the attention started drifting. Her storylines got thinner, her appearances got shorter. And by the time Happy Days wrapped up in 1984, Casey had been so thoroughly backgrounded that most viewers probably couldn't have told you she was still technically on the show. Here's the kicker though, Crystal Bernard absolutely landed on her feet. She went on to star in Wings from 1990 to 1997 as Helen Chappell, a role she owned completely for the entire run of that show. So, the slow phase out of Casey Cunningham was basically the universe course correcting. Sometimes getting quietly pushed out of one show is the universe's way of making room for something better. Still, Casey deserved better than a slow fade into the background of Arnold's Diner. Number 5. Blanche's daughter Janet, The Golden Girls. Now, this one genuinely bothers me, and I will tell you why. The Golden Girls ran from 1985 to 1992 and gave us 4 of the greatest characters in sitcom history: Dorothy, Rose, Sophia, and Blanche. And from the very beginning of the series, Blanche Devereaux, played by Rue McClanahan, was established as a mother. She had children. They were referenced constantly in early seasons. Her son David showed up occasionally. And then there was Janet. Janet was Blanche's daughter, who appeared early in the series, had actual dialogue, actual storylines, and felt like a real presence in Blanche's life. And then, season by season, the references got fewer. The visits stopped. And eventually, the show seemed to quietly decide that Blanche's maternal life was just not a priority anymore. Janet stopped being mentioned entirely. It wasn't a dramatic exit. It was more like the writers just collectively forgot she existed and hoped you would too. What makes this sting a little more is that Blanche's identity as a mother was genuinely important to her character in the early seasons. It added depth and vulnerability to someone who could have easily been a one-note joke. Losing that thread, letting it fray and disappear, made Blanche a little flatter over time. The Golden Girls was brilliant television, but Janet Devereaux is a ghost haunting its early seasons that nobody ever went back to acknowledge. Number 4. Cockroach, The Cosby Show. Alright, here we go. Cockroach. Real name Walter, played by Carl Anthony Payne II, was Theo Huxtable's best friend throughout the middle seasons of The Cosby Show. And when I say throughout, I mean this guy was everywhere. He was a fixture. He was in the Huxtable living room practically every other episode for seasons 3 and 4. He had running jokes. He had his own dynamic with Cliff. He felt like an honorary member of the family. And then, between seasons 4 and 5, he was just gone. No explanation, no final episode where Theo says, "Hey man, it's been real." No mention of where Walter went or why he stopped coming around. The Huxtable household just quietly stopped including him and moved on like he had never existed. Now, the behind-the-scenes story here is actually pretty straightforward. Carl Anthony Payne II left the show because he objected to certain content on moral grounds. Fair enough. That's a completely legitimate reason to exit a role. But the show's response was to simply pretend the character had never been there. No acknowledgement for the audience whatsoever. Think about that. You have a character who was present in dozens of episodes, who had a real established friendship with a main cast member, and the show's solution is just to quietly retire him without a word. If your best friend just stopped showing up and your entire family acted like they had never met him, you would have some serious questions. Theo Huxtable apparently did not. Number 3. Gloria Stivic, All in the Family. Now, here is where it gets genuinely interesting, because Gloria's phase-out happened in a way that was almost architecturally perfect in its gradual nature. All in the Family premiered in 1971, and Sally Struthers as Gloria Stivic, Archie's daughter, was a cornerstone of that show from day one. She was the emotional bridge between Archie's old-world stubbornness and Meathead's progressive politics. She loved her father, while simultaneously being exhausted by him. It was nuanced, it was real, and Struthers played it beautifully. But as the series went on and Rob Reiner's Meathead became increasingly prominent and then increasingly absent as Reiner pursued his directing career, Gloria started losing her narrative footing. Her storylines became less about her own perspective and more about reacting to the men around her. Season by season, the camera spent a little less time on her face and a little more time on Archie's. By the time she and Meathead departed ahead of the show's transition into Archie Bunker's place, it almost felt like a formality, like the show had already been operating without her at full capacity for quite some time. She got a spin-off, Gloria, in 1982, and it lasted exactly one season before disappearing, which honestly felt like a continuation of the same energy. A character who deserved a bigger spotlight, quietly getting less and less of one until the credits finally rolled. Number 2, Coach Ernie Pantuso, Cheers. Now, I want to be careful here because Coach's exit from Cheers was not a creative decision. Nicholas Colasanto, who played the lovably confused bar coach, passed away in February of 1985, and that is a real loss that goes well beyond television. So I want to be respectful of that. But what belongs on this list is the way Coach had been quietly receiving less screen time and fewer storylines in the seasons leading up to his passing. As Sam, Diane, Carla, Cliff, and Norm's dynamics became more developed and more central to the show's identity, Coach increasingly became a warm background presence rather than an active participant. His moments were still wonderful. The man had timing that most comedic actors would trade their entire careers for, but the show's architecture had gradually shifted around him in ways that left him with less and less to do. When he was gone, the hole he left was enormous, which is maybe the most bittersweet proof of how much he had mattered. Woody Harrelson's Woody came in and did a remarkable job. But the phase-out of Coach's storylines in those final seasons is a quiet, gentle, and genuinely sad example of a character slowly moving to the edges of his own show, without anyone really planning it that way. Number 1. Richie Cunningham, Happy Days. And here we are, the one that started it all. Or, more accurately, the one that ended it all. Happy Days premiered in 1974 with Ron Howard's Richie Cunningham as the undisputed center of the show. This was Richie's world, his family, his neighborhood, his coming-of-age story set against the backdrop of 1950s Milwaukee. The show was built around him. Then Fonzie happened. Henry Winkler's Arthur Fonzarelli was supposed to be a supporting character, a cool older kid on the periphery of Richie's world. But audiences went absolutely berserk for Fonzie in a way that nobody predicted and nobody entirely planned for. And so, season by season, the show's center of gravity quietly shifted. Fonzie got more screen time. Fonzie got bigger storylines. Fonzie moved into the Cunningham garage, which, if you think about it, is one of the more aggressive moves in sitcom history. The supporting character literally moved into the main character's house. And through all of this, Richie Cunningham was slowly, almost imperceptibly, pushed from the center of the frame toward the edge of it. It wasn't dramatic. Nobody announced it. Ron Howard wasn't handed a smaller chair or anything. It just happened, the way tide erodes a shoreline, gradually, then suddenly. By the time Howard left after season 7 to pursue his directing career, the transition was almost seamless, because the show had already been operating as the Fonzie Show for years. Richie's departure was announced, sure, but his phase-out had started long before he ever packed his bags for the army. And here's the thing that makes this number 1. This is the character whose disappearance inspired the term Chuck Cunningham syndrome. Richie's brother Chuck vanished, and the whole phenomenon got named after his family. And then, quietly, without anyone declaring it out loud, the same slow erasure happened to Richie himself. Not all at once, not with a bang, just a slow, steady, almost invisible fade until one of the greatest characters in sitcom history was standing in someone else's show, wearing a smile and waiting for his exit cue. That is the slow phase out in its purest, most complete form. And that is our countdown. 10 sitcom characters who didn't get the dramatic farewell, the tearful goodbye, or even the basic dignity of an explanation. They just got turned down slowly, like a song at the end of a party, until the room was quiet and nobody remembered they had ever been playing. Which one hit you hardest? Drop it in the comments below. And if you want more dives into the forgotten corners of classic television, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss a video. So this is Aaron, and this is Old TV Cinema. We'll see you next time.